thanks to all of you for your service to our country and for joining us today. I deeply appreciate it. And on behalf of the constituents that I have back in Utah, I express my deepest gratitude to you and those who serve under your command. For the last 2 years, we've heard a lot from a lot of high-ranking military officers like yourselves who have come before this committee and others in front of the men and women that they command and in front of the American people to express the grave concerns they have about sequestration and what it could do to our military readiness, and everything we do through our military. I've heard members of Congress on both sides of the aisle and on both ends of the Capitol express grave concerns about the impacts of sequestration, about what could happen. And I've heard my own constituents, people from throughout Utah, many of whom are currently serving or have served in the military, express similar concerns. It's an interesting conversation. It's sad that we have to be having this conversation, especially since sequestration was something put into law at a time when nobody believed it would ever happen. It was supposed to be so bad that we would do anything and everything possible in order to avoid it, and yet it has arrived. So my first question, which I'll leave open to any of you who might want to answer it, I'd like to know a little bit about the means by which, the format by which, the regularity with which you communicate these kinds of concerns, the sorts of concerns we're talking about today, about sequestration's impact on readiness and on the Department of Defense generally. How and in what way do you communicate those concerns to the White House?
I would say that first off, you know, as the Joint Chiefs, we meet twice a week to discuss many key issues, to include policy issues, of health of the force issues, and we clearly have discussions, and then the chairman, as the chairman, takes those to the White House. But we also have periodic meetings with the White House. In fact, we have one next week where we'll have the opportunity to go over and discuss many of these issues with the President. I think he's been very open in meeting with the Joint Chiefs on these types of things. So, you know, there are forums in place to do that. We also obviously meet on a regular basis with the Secretary of Defense, where we have the opportunity to talk about the issues we have, and he also takes those forward. So I think there's avenues there that are clearly open to us that we use on a quite regular basis. Okay, so if I understand you, General Odierno, you do meet regularly with the White House, and you're able to communicate these openly, effectively to people in the White House at the highest levels, including the President and the Secretary of Defense. Okay. That is good to hear. My concern, and one of the things that animates that question, is that I have not sensed quite the same level of alarm coming from the White House as I have sensed when I've met with each of you. I have not sensed that same level of concern. We've seen a lot of action, a lot of energy from the White House going into efforts involving everything from gun control to defending Obamacare to fixing the website and so forth. I have not heard the same level of concern, the level of alarm that I'm hearing from you, and that does cause me some concern. It seems to me that if the administration did in fact think this situation was this dire as you're explaining it to us, I would expect us to see that issue, those set of issues, receive a lot more time and attention and energy from our Commander-in-Chief. Going along with that, instructions on preparing for sequestration in 2013 were not even initiated until just a few months before it went into effect. And the President didn't consider the possibility of sequestration in his 2014 budget request, despite the fact that it is law, despite the fact that that law has not been repealed, it has not been modified in a way that makes it irrelevant or less relevant. So can any of you, describe for the committee what instructions, if any, you're receiving from the White House and from OMB with regard to how to deal with sequestration in 2014 and the budget for fiscal year 2015?
We've been directed, and we're in the process, as we sort of described before, to put together a budget that we call it the alternate POM, program objective memorandum, which assumes sequestration levels, Budget Control Act caps. So that is being prepared, and today we are deliberating on that, called the Program Budget Review in the department. There's also a secondary level that is under consideration at a higher level that we also will deliberate over, so that there's an option available, but we are focusing on, in the department right now, the alternative. That is the Budget Control Act cap levels, if you will. But there are two options.
Okay. Thank you, Admiral, for that. And when you say so that there is an option available, you meaning so that we have options on the table, options?
There are options, and so what option will be chosen and under what circumstances, I really couldn't tell you, Senator. But if you wanted to know what are we directed to do, and that is what we're doing. Just again, those two levels.
Okay, so presumably those options will be considered by the President and the Secretary of Defense, and at some point a decision will be made.
Presumably, yes, sir.
Okay, thank you, Admiral. I see my time's expired. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you very much, Senator.